So how do we work with Sun Tzu? The important thing is first and foremost, we've got to read the entire work. We've got to read the entire Art of War. Now, the good news is that's only about 25 pages. So we're not talking about hunkering down and reading a book for a month or two. It is a very, very brief work. Take you in its entirety maybe an hour, 45 minutes for your initial read. However, once you have gone through that initial read, what you need to do is you need to go back and reread it slowly with a highlighter in hand and simply highlight those passages that resonate with you. Highlight those parts of the book that can begin to get you thinking. Then what I suggest is those parts that you've highlighted, write them down. Write them down on a separate sheet of paper. And then use that piece of paper as your reminder, as your cheat sheet, as the seeds of your strategic plan. And so once a day or once a week, spend 5 or 10 minutes, preferably just before you go to bed, and reread one of those passages. And let's go through an example or two of those passages and what Sun Tzu says and how we can develop a strategy out of what he says. The first one is do not rely on their not coming. Rely on what we await them with. Do not rely on their not attacking. Rely on how we are unable to be attacked. So, unable to be attacked. What does that mean? First and foremost, don't assume that you are not competing with Walmart or Target or any of the big boxes. If they're not in your particular area right now, believe me, they will be coming. If they're not in your particular merchandise category right now, believe me, they will probably at some point get into it. So, how do we rely on being unable to be attacked? How do we defend before they come? A number of ways. We begin to strengthen ourselves now before they arrive. So we need to look at a couple of things within our stores. We need to look at, first and foremost, our staff. Do we have strong people? Do we have what I call great bench strength? It's okay if you've got 1 or 2 key employees. However, what happens if they get sick? What happens if they retire? What happens if they leave? Do you have people that you are growing to replace them? Do you have great people waiting in the wings? We call this technically succession planning. So have you done some thinking about your succession plans? Do you have strong deployment of technology? The great news today is that technology for retailers is extremely inexpensive. It's a level playing field. You can have the same technology as the big box retailers have at a very, very reasonable price. Have you invested in technology to bring you to state of the art where you can get the information you need when you need it and you can believe in it? Have you mastered the 5 rights of retail? And you may have forgotten the 5 rights of retail, and let me remind you of them. We have said for over 80 years in retail that if you want to be successful, it begins with having the right product in the right place, at the right time, in the right quantity, and at the right price. If we have mastered those 5 things, or as close as we can to mastering those 5, we've added a 6th one today that is called with the right service. So, have we focused on merchandise, product? Have we focused on placement, the right place within the store? In the right quantity? Are we not buying too many, but buying the right amount? And at the right time? Are they coming at the right time for the customer? And have we really looked at our competition and placed it at the right price? And then layer on top of that service, and we're really doing something. Have you built great relationships with your vendors? A real buzzword in retail today is strategic partnerships. How do I partner with my vendor? And I don't care how small of a retailer you are, you all have the opportunity to build relationships with your key vendors. And you can go about that very easily. Call up a vice president of sales. Call up the president of the company Explain to them that you know, you're a really committed customer of theirs, and you would like to invite them to your store, or you would like to take them out to lunch. Go visit their distribution center. Believe me, they will welcome that. And it's all about relationships. When I was at Levi Strauss, I very often shipped product to very small accounts ahead of the big accounts. And the reason why I did that is those small accounts got to know me. And I made sure that they got their products ahead of the much bigger guys. It was about 4 or 5 small accounts who took the time to get to know me, and they got fabulous service. And that was over 15 years ago, long before strategic vendor relationships were in vogue. So work on the relationships with your key vendors. Do you have share of mind as well as heart with your current customers? Share of mind is, do they think of you when they think of your product, and that's important. Share of heart is even more important. Do they really like you? Do they like doing business with you? That's a much more difficult thing to build. But once you have share of heart, you're allowed to make a lot of mistakes with that customer, and they will forgive you. And finally, do you have an obsession with what your competition is doing? Not visiting your competition, not being aware of your competition, but an absolute obsession with what they are doing. Remember, Sears did not have an obsession with Walmart until it was too late. Kmart did not have an obsession with Walmart until it was way too late. Sam spent the first 15 years of his retailing career in a Kmart store 3 days a week, learning from Kmart. He was obsessed with Kmart. Kmart was ignoring him. Sears ignored Walmart. Don't ignore your competition. Be obsessed with them.